Welcome to the Hello Sunday podcast with me, Nikki Hayden. This is the podcast that discusses everything self-development, spirituality and sobriety. And it wouldn't be me without a little sprinkling of humour. Whether you are just starting out on your journey of self-development or have been exploring these topics for years, are completely alcohol-free or just curious about living a more sober lifestyle, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I'll be exploring topics in both solo episodes and with some amazing guest experts. So if you like what you hear, then please subscribe, rate and review. So with that said, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Hello Sunday. I hope you're all good, guys. I hope you are all good. Welcome back. Welcome if it's your first time listening. And to those of you that have been around since the beginning of time, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting me, for listening. I'm so grateful. So very grateful. I have just come back from the most gorgeous morning autumnal walk with one of my best friends. It was one of those mornings where it's like crisp, clear, blue skies, chilly in the air. But we met in the middle because we live really close to each other and went and grabbed a coffee from a little local independent coffee shop and then just had a little walk, only for like half an hour, but it's just put me in the best mood. And I know it's not autumn until, well, actually, it's autumn on the day that this comes out. So technically, when I'm coming into your ears, it is autumn. But on the day that I'm recording this, it's not quite there yet. So Sunday the 22nd is the autumn equinox. And actually, as you're listening to this, if you're listening to it on the Sunday morning, I won't have gone yet, but if you're listening to it any time after the 22nd, I'm actually going to an autumn equinox event, which is, I did one in spring actually, I didn't do the summer one, but I did one in spring, albeit at a different venue. And I'm doing the autumn one because it's basically a really good way of like reflecting on what's happened in the last season, the last kind of 3 months, what you want to happen for the next 3 months. And in this case, obviously the last 3 months of the year, looking at your goals, just resetting your energy, recalibrating. You do it in a group. So it's really good energy around like-minded people. And yeah, I'm just really excited to do that, to be honest. I think it's going to be a really nice workshop and hopefully will give me a little bit more kind of clarity and steer. So yeah, that was really something that I booked a while ago because I just know that having that kind of real clear differentiation between the seasons and just refocusing on goals, I guess, is really important. And actually that's kind of going to come into what I'm talking about today. But what have I done this week? Not a huge amount, to be honest. We had a really chilled weekend. The weekend that this comes out, I'll have been with family and friends back in the Midlands. So really looking forward to that. Seeing some of the girls that I used to work with, including one of my best friends, Tony. So that'll be really nice. We're just doing like a little breakfast brunch thing. Have a bit of a catch up, seeing my family. Just, yeah, having a really nice family weekend. So I'll let you know how that goes. But the weekend just gone, we didn't do a lot. We really didn't. We had a really chilled, really kind of just in the house, going to the gym, doing the food shop kind of weekend. I think, to be honest, just like I said, I think it was last week or the week before, like that kind of slower going into the colder months in the UK energy really just makes me want to go inward a little bit and just, I guess, just recalibrate and just come away from the madness of like all the social occasions and socializing of the summer period. So I really went balls deep on the Sunday reset this week. Actually, I don't know what happened to my husband, but he turned into a domestic god on Sunday. He did about 3 loads of washing. He cooked, he cooks all the meals anyway, but he did like food prep and did like a deep clean of the kitchen. I barely had to lift a finger. So my Sunday reset was all about like my business and the week ahead and getting prepared from like a planning perspective. But it was really nice. I felt really, really in control then going into this week. And I've done an episode all about Sunday Reset, which I'll link in the show notes for anyone that's not listened to that, because it's one of those things where it's not really self-development or kind of manifestation or sobriety focused or anything like that, but actually it really does connect all those things, because if you're spending your Sunday really well, which is the whole premise of this podcast, then in essence you're going into the week well and you're going to achieve more. So, but today, what do I want to talk about? Well, I'll be honest, I was going to say I have a confession then. It's not really a confession at all. It's no big news, but I guess I come on here every week and talk about hitting goals and taking action and things that you can do to better yourself and better your life. And we have these incredible guests on who are all doing amazing things. And it would be easy for anyone listening to think, well, she's got it all together. She's doing the self-development stuff and she's, hitting the sobriety and achieving. And actually, do you know what? Nobody's got it all together. Nobody is doing everything, hitting their goals and feeling like that sort of their life is smooth sailing all the time. Like, it's just not a thing. Social media might lead you to believe that. It might be that you're looking at someone's highlight reel and thinking, fuck, like I'm not doing any of that stuff, or maybe I'm kind of dipping in and out of it. But I've got news for you, like we all are. And lately I've been feeling, how do I put it? I guess a little bit like, yes, I'm hitting goals, and yes, I'm just kind of achieving. I'm doing the stuff that I need to do on a daily basis. I've got into a fitness routine this year. I've really looked at my habits and what I need to be doing from the perspective of that kind of daily, that daily habit tracking and habit stacking. And I'm doing all that and I'm hitting them. And yes, there is an element of the compound effect that will come into play there. So, if I wasn't going to the gym 3 times a week, then I wouldn't be getting in better shape. If I wasn't doing things towards my health goals, like drinking the water and taking the supplements and taking my Improve, then no, I wouldn't be experiencing the much better health that I have been and feeling more energetic and getting less poorly. But despite doing all of that and hitting all of those and being consistent, I've just felt a little bit like I'm on a hamster wheel and a little bit flat. And I think sometimes, from my experience, and this might not be how you feel, but from my personal experience, I think sometimes when you're embedding a habit or habits and you're having to really consciously think about doing stuff, ticking off your steps and ticking off your gym sessions and ticking off your supplements. And, in my case, things like doing my LED skin mask every day and my evening yoga and stretching. You can sometimes just be ticking things off a list and just feeling like you're kind of going through the motions. And yet, of course, they'll be having a positive impact. But I think you can really lose sight of why you're doing stuff and that bigger vision, and it can leave you feeling like you're just going through the motions and just feeling a little bit, like I say, like you're on a hamster wheel. And that's kind of how I've been feeling recently. And I think there's definitely reasons for that. I think, as I've alluded to on a few occasions in different episodes, my line of work has been really tough this year. Recruitment, the job market has just been absolutely a nightmare. I've not seen it this bad since the 2008 recession. So that's been a slog. Having your own business is always a little bit kind of nerve-wracking when, the money's not flying in and you're having to really, really work for it and just be super careful. So that definitely has played a part. But I think also I've just lost track of that bigger vision. And I realised the other day that that's what it was. I was sat there thinking, you know what? I'm doing all of the things. I'm setting my daily goals, ticking them off, checking in with my accountability group from a business perspective. We also look at like personal fitness goals and mindset stuff. And I'm doing all of that daily, but I'm going to bed feeling like we get up and go again the next day, rather than ignited and that fire in my belly and that real passion. And I think especially if you're a parent, like I'm not a parent, I haven't got kids, but I've spoken to a lot of friends and family members about this. And I think especially when you have kids and it is like the same routine every day, you can definitely feel this way. And there might be some of you listening now that can completely relate to that. Or maybe if you've been in the same job for a while and it's just kind of like, you're doing the stuff every day, but it's not lighting you up. And that isn't for me what the issue was. Like, I love running my business. Like, I can't tell you how much I love running my business. I love business on a whole. I love having the conversations I have. I love how I can structure my own day. So it's not the work that I'm doing. It's just losing sight of why I'm doing it. So at the start of the year, well, actually, let me just go back because it's taken me a while to get to that conclusion. I wasn't sure of exactly what was happening. I wasn't sure of why I was feeling this way. I was like, you're hitting your goals, but there's a real difference between vision and goals. And really, goals are like the action part. Goals are the things that you need to be hitting and be achieving to get to the vision. But if you're just hitting the goals and you haven't got the vision, it can leave you feeling a little bit deflated, a little bit flat, and a little bit like unsure of why you're doing it all. And I think that was the realization I came to the other day when I really sat with it and thought about, like, why do I feel this way? Why do I feel like I'm not getting the same passion and the same excitement from life? And me and my husband have actually got a phrase, and we've got it on our chalkboard downstairs at the moment because I wrote it a few weeks ago. And we just say, oh, I'm excited for life today. And that normally means when you've like had well, for me anyway, and I think for him, when you've had like a snippet of like a vision of the future, or you're excited for the next stage, or you are excited because you're building something. And I think when life feels like a hamster wheel, you can really lose that feeling a little bit. So anyway, that's just a bit of context. So yeah, I guess the goals are the actions that you take to reach the vision. And when you lose sight of the vision, that is when it can become just like, rinse and repeat and doing it again. So I make a vision board at the start of every year. I do it in January. And whilst I know that January isn't really, well, in the UK, in the Northern Hemisphere, it's not really the time to be creating goals and putting big energy out there. Well, maybe creating the goals and the vision and the thought, but actually taking the action, January is a really difficult time. It's not a natural human time of kind of coming alive. That is the spring. And I've said it a million times before. And if you've not listened to previous episodes, I'll just quickly, briefly explain again. But actually, our new year was always in March. It was always in the spring. It was the start of new beginnings, things flowering, things coming back to life again. And it was only when it was the Gregorian calendar actually that was put in place, but the Romans changed the calendar, the patriarchy changed the calendar, they increased the number of days in some months, and they added months to the year. So in essence now, our calendar as it is the Gregorian calendar. That, I think that's right anyway, I'm 99.9% sure that's right, but feel free to correct me. It's the Gregorian calendar that now starts in January, which obviously we all adhere to, and that's when our new year is. But actually, with the seasons and the natural cycles of the planet, it's actually March that we were always kind of bringing things into fruition and setting plans, and the new year started in alignment with nature and spring. So I always set goals in January, but what I've realised is I can set that big vision, but actually I really don't come to life and start putting a really good amount of energy into that until probably, like March time, when things are starting to get a bit warmer, spring's just starting to come into the air, we can feel the new beginnings. So actually what I've learned to do in my own business is to just take a bit of a step back in January. And it's my birthday month anyway. We were away for a lot of it this year, but just really embrace that and know that you can set the vision and set the strategy, but actually putting the goals in place to achieve it is probably something that I'm not going to do right like straight away at the start of the year, because it just doesn't align with nature and cycles and the way humans are designed and our energy. But I always create a vision board, and I always put that vision board then on my phone and also on my laptop screen. It's something that I look at hundreds of times a day. And when I do the vision boarding, I do it digitally, and I really, really connect to the energy of what I want. So, for instance, I've got money for our next house deposit on the vision board. And that energy, if I just put it on there, would just be like, yeah, I want to save money. But actually connecting to what would that mean? I've got a picture of the house that I would love. Connecting to how would I feel? How would that vision, coming to life make me feel? Can I imagine myself living there? What does it smell like? Who is the girl that lives there? What's my husband doing? All of this stuff you've got to really connect into. So I do that every January, and then at a couple of points throughout the year, I tend to revisit it. One being in spring, when I'm actually going to start taking action. And then I actually did it again in, I think, like July time this year, just because some of the stuff on the vision board, given how business had gone so far this year, and also just a couple of things, like there was a couple of tweaks on there. I'd got a vision of Bali, but I knew that we weren't going to get to Bali this year or next, because we're saving and we're in that era, so we can move and progress our lives. So yeah, I changed it up and put new visions on there. And I also included words, things like ease and flow, connected. It was things that really made me feel connected to that vision and the person that I wanted to be. And not all of it was big lofty goals. Not all of it was the house and the revenue target. Some of it was just, there's a picture of like a book in bed sheets with a croissant, a cup of coffee and some glasses. And it was like reminding myself to slow down and take the rest. There's a picture of a girl on there who is meditating on the beach at sunset. It was just reminders that not everything has to be 100 miles an hour. So it's not all big goals. It's not all stuff, to achieve, but it was just a feel for my life. And I realized the other day that I'd really become disconnected from that vision. I was still doing stuff to achieve it, but because the passion and the fire in me had gone, and I was really disconnected from that feeling of it, that was where I was feeling just like rinse and repeat in the hamster wheel, because I was doing the stuff, but there was no connection to actually why I was doing it, and the feeling of having those things and achieving that lifestyle and being the person that was in that vision. So this week I've really taken some steps to reconnect to that, and I'm just going to go through with you what I've done, because actually I think there's probably a lot of people that, coming out of summer, like I say, lots of social occasions, the kids have been off, there's a whole host of things that happen in terms of our routine being disrupted. It can be easy to just drop back into the routine that you had pre-summer without actually thinking about, does this work for me? Are these things that are helping me to achieve goals that I'm actually connected to now? Or has my vision changed? Like, you can change your vision every freaking day if you want. You don't have to connect with what it was that you wanted a few months ago. Maybe you do. Maybe all year for you, your goals stay the same and you're really tunnel visioned and focused. But for me, it does change throughout the year sometimes, and I can change my mind from one month to the next of what I want, depending on how I'm feeling and whether or not that still aligns. So the first thing that I did was really looked at that vision board and looked at, are these things still in alignment with me? Are they still what I want? And for the most part, it was an absolute resounding yes. So nothing had actually changed with regards to what I wanted and the vision that I had for my life. It was just that I'd become a little bit removed from it and I was just going through the motions. So I really connected with the feeling of each of those images, each of those words. So things like abundance and energy, ease and flow, what do they mean to me? They might mean completely different things to you than they do to me, but what do they mean? Was I really taking the rest that I had put on that vision board that I wanted? Was I really taking the time to connect with myself and slow down? Or was I just doing things to tick a box? So for instance, I've recently started doing just 10-15 minutes of evening yoga, like stretching. it really helps me to, because I work from home, to like differentiate between the work day and the evening. So I'm doing it at like 8:30, 9 o'clock after everything's wrapped up, we've had dinner, etc. But I found myself last week just doing it to tick the box on my journal that said that I'd done that, rather than actually connecting with how it was making me feel, how my body felt in that moment, connecting with my breath, really slowing down. And it wasn't having the same effect as it had done when I'd first started it a few weeks ago, because I wasn't really there. Like, I was doing it, but I wasn't really in it. So I made a real conscious effort that if I wasn't in the right mindset, if there was still stuff, going on in my mind or things that I needed to do before bed, I wouldn't do the yoga until everything was ticked off. If I had to do my skincare or I had to clean or tidy the kitchen, those were things that I was making sure I was doing before I was getting to the stretching and the yoga, because otherwise it wasn't having the same impact, and it was almost like wasted time, because physically it was probably doing something, but mentally it wasn't having the impact. And the reason I was doing it was more for that wind down and that relaxation. So that was one thing. Another thing was in like business, obviously knowing what my goals were for this year. I did adjust those slightly, because I think the lofty goal that I put on at the middle of the year was still a little bit, I wouldn't say unachievable, because things are never completely unachievable, but it was making me feel, I guess, just a little bit of a sinking feeling rather than feeling excited to be able to hit it. So I've just adjusted that slightly, just to be, I don't really like using the word realistic, but I guess in a way it is a bit more realistic. It's a bit more in alignment with where I think I can get to this year, and then I can put the big lofty goal on again in January for next year and get really excited about hitting that. So there were just a couple of things that I changed up on it, and I just really reconnected with why each thing was on there and what it really was about that. There was something on there about sobriety, and as you'll know from last week's episode, I've really reconnected with the reasons why I was doing that in the first place. For those of you that are regular listeners to the show, or maybe you know me personally, you won't have been able to get away without hearing me talk about Simprove. Simprove is a scientifically backed, water-based probiotic drink. You drink it daily, and it has been scientifically proven to help with things like bloating, IBS symptoms, pain. It was actually a dietitian friend of mine that introduced it to me last year, and I honestly wouldn't be without it now. It's helped with my energy, with my bloating, it's helped with my immune system, and also things like my skin. The list is honestly endless. Now, I have got a code for you. So if you'd like to try Simprove, you can get 50%, that's a massive 50% off your first 3-month subscription by going on to simprove.com and putting in the code Nikki50. That's NIKKI 50, or clicking the link in the show notes. So there's just a few questions that I want to put to you that you can use if you are maybe feeling a bit disconnected or stuck. Maybe you don't have a vision. This can work whether it's like a complete life vision or whether it's just for one part of your life. So an example of that would be in January, when I joined a fitness coach and really focused on my fitness and gym and strength workouts, that I had a vision of what I wanted to feel like and how I wanted to look come this point in the year. And do you know what? Actually, I'm really proud of myself to say that I have got there. Like, I am feeling and looking how I want to now. And it's just a case of really maintaining that consistent effort. And then maybe next year I'll dial it up in other areas. But that vision of what I wanted, I couldn't have got here without that vision. I would have had to have just gone through the motions every day without it otherwise. And I don't think that would have motivated me to continue. It really wouldn't. And also making a note of progress, taking progress pictures, that really, really helped with keeping me on track. So you can do this for like one area of your life. Maybe it's your career, or maybe it's you want to move house or relocate to a new city, or maybe you want to start a business, or maybe it's just, I don't know, something as simple as you want to get your child into a good sleep routine or into I don't know, like a good eating routine or something like that, you can have a vision of what that will look like. You can have that end result picture in your mind. It doesn't have to be an entire life picture and creation of your entire dream life. But I guess mine was, because a lot of the areas that I was doing habits and being consistent in daily were part of that vision. They were part of the bigger lifestyle picture. Getting fit wasn't just for aesthetic reasons. It's because I want the vision of my life to be, when I'm old, that I'm still super mobile and super strong and able to have a long, healthy life. So there's just some questions that I'm going to put to you. You can make a note of them or pause the podcast after each one, write them down. But these are just a few things that I asked myself that really got me back on track with connecting to what it was that I really wanted and why I was doing this stuff. So the first question is, what do I want? What do you want? Now, a lot of the time people will answer this and it isn't, you can tell it's not exactly what they want. You can tell it's what their parents want for them, or their husband or wife wants for them, or what they feel that they should want based on society. There's so much pressure around these days from social media and comparing ourselves to think that we want something because other people have got it. And you've got to be really honest with this one. What is it that you want? Like, I know for me, using fitness as an example, I didn't want to be a bikini model. I didn't want to go down the bodybuilder route. I know that for my lifestyle, going to the gym 3 times a week and eating healthy was more than enough. I didn't want to go down the route of bulking and cutting and that sort of stuff, because yeah, of course you can look great, but it's just not me. It's not for my lifestyle. So what is it that you want? Get really, really clear on that and be honest with yourself. You cannot create a vision from somebody else's desires for you. So after you've asked yourself, what do you want? Ask yourself, why do I want it? Why do I want it? And that will help you to get clear on whether it is your own desire or whether it is coming from somebody else or a place that isn't yours. So for instance, using the fitness example again, if I had said that I wanted to be a bikini model, I probably wouldn't have been able to think of that many reasons why I wanted it, because it wasn't something that I really wanted. Whereas when I was thinking about why I wanted to be strong and healthy and have a better physique, there was a ton of reasons, because it was my true desire at my core. So what do I want? Why do I want it? Third question is, what will obtaining this make possible? What will obtaining this make possible? So let's use the example of our house. We moved into the house that we're in now when neither of us were working from home all the time. So we could have used one of the extra rooms as a guest bedroom. We didn't think about the garden space because we're on a corner plot and we've got 2 gardens, but neither of them have got like grass or much nature. They've got like bushes and trees, but it's mainly decking and slabbing. We didn't really think about that. And we didn't consider the area where what we look onto is rented property. So people just don't give a fuck, a lot of the time. And I'm not saying that everybody that rents doesn't. I've been a renter and was a really, really conscientious and very careful renter and looked after the property. But the people opposite us don't give a fuck. So we have no control over what we look out onto. And so actually, and it also means that with a couple of these things, like it's not really an entertaining space. The house doesn't flow very well. We moved here just to get on the property ladder and sell my flat in Birmingham and get on the property ladder together. But actually now we've got a real vision for what we want the functional use of our space to be and what we would really want as like nice to have extras. So things that we would be able to do with the new house is we'd be able to have guests to stay, we'd be able to entertain, have friends and family over, have the kids running outside. There's currently nowhere for our family kids to run and play. It would be a more functional space. We could have an office instead of having the bedrooms as offices. There's just so much that we could do with that type of property that we can't do with this one. So there's so many good reasons why we want it, but also so many things that it would help us to do by obtaining it. So question 4 is, what would my life be like without it? What would my life be like without it? So again, using the example of the house, for us, well, we can't really have people to stay because we've got a sofa bed, which is like sleeping on concrete. But to have like older members of the family stay, we have to give up our bed. So we can only really do that for one night because the sofa's not the best. Friends won't really come and stay because we haven't really got a proper space for them. We can't really entertain. The kids haven't really got anywhere to play. So it's not very fair to have them over and cooped in. So it would just mean that we cannot do the things that we want to do. The space can't be used. We also really want to put some gym equipment at home because we both currently pay for a gym membership. So it'd be nice to have a space that we can also train from home. We wouldn't be able to do that. Who am I with this is question number 5. Who am I with this? I guess that is really referring to your higher self, the person that you want to be. And I'm not saying that you have to obtain material things in life or have to achieve things in life to be able to tap into that higher self. Absolutely not. But if you can see yourself, and I'm using the example of the house again, but living in that home at peace, if you're near nature, you've got your friends and family there, you can just open the doors up and let the kids run in and out of the house. You can have people stay. You don't have to worry about them leaving and getting home. You know, all of this stuff, like, who am I? I am a calm, content, happy, sociable, just a person who's in her element, knowing that her home space completely supports the life that she's trying to create. So the 6th question is, how will I feel? Now, we've just kind of tapped into some of that emotion by answering the questions before that, but really try and tap into, like, how are you going to feel when you've got this? How would obtaining this lifestyle or this goal, this, you know, this vision for your life, how do you feel with this? And this is really the core question that is going to drive you. Creating a vision isn't just about what it looks like. It's about how you feel with it. So if it's a new car, can you feel the leather? Can you hear the music that you're playing with the window down on a sunny day driving around? If it's your dream fitness regime or body, or, you know, how will you feel with that? It's not just about how you look, but can you wear different clothes? Will you feel like you are strong? And, you know, can you chase your kids around? How is this, having this thing or obtaining this thing, how do you feel at the core? Because that really is absolutely everything. Embodying that feeling is what is going to drive the action. It's what's going to make you put the effort into the goals which are going to get to that vision. So for instance, when I was doing this with sobriety and cutting alcohol out, I really had to connect with how I would feel, because the actual action of not drinking was tough. Like I've said it before, you know, the first few weeks were a novelty, but after that it got tough. We got invited out more, the weather got warmer, there was a lot more happening, and I had to really reconnect with, how am I going to feel? I'm going to feel productive, I'm going to feel full of energy, I'm going to feel like I am in control, I'm going to have better skin, better energy, all of these things. I had to feel that before I felt it, and that is really the key. And then I think what is really important, and this for me has been the real kind of, I guess the thing that's really changed everything, is knowing that you don't need to do this on your own. So where do I need support? Where can I get support? Who can help support me? It might be as simple as texting your best mate and saying, look, I'm going to do this. This is my vision, sharing with them what it is that you want. These are the goals that I need to hit to achieve it. Will you be my accountability buddy? Will you keep me on track? For me, I've got that in the form of my business accountability group. I've got people in my business peer circle that will help me check in. I did have obviously a trainer in the fitness space. I kind of got to a point where I felt like I could do that on my own now. But for me, with this new vision, I am I've reached out to one of my business mentors who runs the Unbound business group that I'm part of. So we'll have done this actually by the time this episode goes out, but we're going to have a couple of hours strategy session one morning just to really reconnect me with what is it that I want from this business and how am I going to get there. That's the first piece of support that I am receiving. And then also there is a course that I want to do which will help me to change the business model and the way that I charge my clients, and in essence getting me paid before I put the work in, rather than on a wing and a prayer at the end of the process and hoping they don't change anything throughout. And that is something that I'm going to have to invest in. Is it scary? Yes, because it's a hell of a lot of money, but I know that I need it to be able to take that next step in my business, and especially going into next year. So that is something that I am going to be, I've already started looking into it and I've got calls booked to explore what that's going to look like. And then I think just generally with my husband, with my marriage and with my friendship group, I've just made the people really close to me very aware that, look, this is the vision that I've got. These are the things that I am wanting to achieve, and these are the goals that I'm putting in place to get there. And if it means prioritizing things over social occasions and fun, if it means that I'm having to put in extra work at weekends, if it means that I am having to just rejig my week a little bit, if there are curveballs and things that are coming up, then just bear with me, because I need to get this fire back. I need to get this passion back. And the only way that I can really do that is by really reconnecting with kind of the end goal and what it is that I want. So for me, that has been a bit of a game changer. I think it's easy to just, if you're a real doer, if you're somebody that is quite proactive and likes to really put in effort and action into achieving your goals, it can just become very monotonous. And I think you really need to check in with the bigger picture and your why and your vision. And sometimes all it takes is a little tweak of that, or not even a tweak. Sometimes it's just reconnecting with the vision that you've got in place. And sometimes it is just, tweaking a couple of things and really looking at what it is that you want and getting that fire back. We should all have things in life that we're excited by. We should all have a bigger picture that gets that fire in the belly going. And it might be that at this season in your life, it's just really small stuff. You might be overwhelmed with parenting or your job, and there's only small things that you can put in place right now. That's fine. It doesn't have to be, that you're living on a yacht in bloody Monaco and making millions every year. But what does success look like to you? What is the vision? Like, is it a softer, calmer life of ease and flow? Is it hitting those big business goals? Is it just having really happy, healthy children that you can do stuff with at weekends? What does it look like to you? And really, really embody that, feel it and put yourself in the situation of already being there. And hopefully that will get that fire back if you've lost it. You may be listening to this thinking, no, I'm on fire at the minute, Nikki, and I don't need it. But maybe you can come back to this episode if you do feel a little burnt out and a little bit flat in the future. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Have a fantastic week all, and I will see you again next Sunday. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Instagram at HelloSundayPod, or you can email us on hellosundaypod@outlook.com. Have a great week.